Okay, hello everyone. Hello from Kiev. It's Macmillan Education Ukraine. Please find the chat box and put some signs that you can hear and you can see us. And if it is possible for you, please type where you are joining to us from. Okay, Victoria put a smiley, an emoji, and it means that she sees us and she hears us. Hello from Zhytomyr, hello from Kiev, from Odessa, again, Kiev, Dnipro, Черкаси, Poltava, Nova Kakhovka, Kiev, Kharkiv, Shostka, wow, Lutsk, Kiev, Nizhyn, Полтава, Харків, Запоріжжя. Again, Київ, Рівне, Вінниця, Канів, Ужгород, Коростишів. Again, Рівне, Гребінка, Лебедин, Odessa, Sumy, Lutsk. Hello, everyone. It's 3 p.m. Kiev time, and it's high time to start our day one of a huge event. It's Spring Conference 2024. Before we actually start, I would like to say some very important things. First of all, remember that your safety is first and foremost. So if there is an air raid signal, please make sure that you are in the safe place. This conference is being recorded, so everyone will certainly get the link to this recording, and you may have the opportunity to watch it when it is convenient. Second announcement, of course, every participant who is online today with us will receive the certificate. And the third thing, before we actually start, I would like to say and express thanks to each and every person, thanks to whom we are able to do this event. I mean, both those who make it possible for us to be in our homes, to have the electricity, to have the internet, and to feel more or less safe. And of course, to our partners who help with different means, with the money, with weapons, and in our case, with the knowledge, with ideas. And at this very moment, I have great pleasure to greet our first speaker, whom you might already know because Miss Anna Parr is not the first time here with us. Anna, the audience is all yours. I'm really happy to see you and to have you today.
Yeah, the pleasure is all mine. Thank you so much. And I would like to tell every one of you here present that I hugely appreciate the fact that you're here, and I do understand how difficult it is. And yeah, and this is something special for me as well, because I'm talking to people in special circumstances who, despite everything, decided to come and listen to me, which is a great honor. Okay, so today we will be talking about teaching English in the 21st century classroom. Okay, so let me share my screen with you. Okay. Okay, let me know if you can see the screen. Okay, lovely, thank you. Okay, so we are talking about teaching English as a foreign language in the 21st century classroom, which is a bit different from what it used to be in the past. Like in the past, we did have, we were teachers of English, and we generally focused on teaching English. And teaching English was like the main thing. We were taught, we studied in order to become teachers of English, and that was the only thing that we actually focused on. So we typically focused on giving our students the ability to use the language, to have the vocabulary, to understand the grammar, to have the language skills and everything ready for communicating in the language. And it was enough. But then it has changed, because in the 21st century, the skills of having the knowledge of vocabulary and grammar are actually not enough. What we need to teach our students, what we need to equip our students with, goes beyond the vocabulary and grammar elements or even skills of the language. So what we are looking at is something more than the language, and we as language teachers are obliged and privileged to give our students the skills and the competencies, the abilities to do more than just use the language as was the case before. So just to give you a hint of what I mean by not limiting our teaching to the knowledge, but to other more important skills that we are going to talk about today, I'm going to quiz you, okay? So I'm going to show you quiz questions, okay? You'll be quizzed. I'm going to give you like 5 seconds to have a look at the questions and come up with the answers, okay? But what I need you to do is to think whether you know the answers from your head rather than from the internet, okay? So don't Google up the answers, okay? Just have a look and decide whether you would know the answers just from your experience, from your memory, okay? So the question is, can you name the date of the Act of Supremacy? Okay, when England left church and became the Anglican Church. Can you name the capital of Oman? Okay, the 4 nucleotides in the DNA. The formula of the area of the trapezoid. Okay, let's think for 5 seconds to see how many of these questions you can actually answer. Okay, so yeah, I can see a lot of no's, which is okay because I did not expect anyone to have these answers. Okay, so I'll give you the answers: the date of the Act of the Supremacy, and the capital of Oman, and the 4 nucleotides of the DNA: adenine, thymine, cytosine, and guanine, okay? And the formula of the area of the trapezoid is this, okay? So these are the answers, okay? Well, if you could answer one, that would be wow, okay? Now, I promise you that one day in your past, once, probably quite a long time ago, you did know the answers, okay? You did remember those answers. You learned them at school. You went to the test, you wrote the test, and then for the entirety of your life after that, you've never used this knowledge, so that is why you don't remember, okay? But once you did remember, because your teachers made you learn those facts, okay? Now, a different type of task. Look at this one. Now, can you solve this task? Okay, now I need you to imagine for a moment that we were in a plane and the plane crashed. Okay, and the place of the crash is indicated in the map. And now we are sitting there in the crash site and we need to make a decision what to do. Okay, so there are different places indicated in the map and we have some notes. Okay, now if you have a look at the notes, you can see that it's night, but it's a moonlit night, so it's not very dark. We have crashed. We've got 3 people who are badly hurt. And Joe, among them, is seriously hurt and he needs urgent help. 2 of you are okay. And now we need to decide, well, in ideal situation, it will be a group work. Yeah, so the students will have to sit around and decide together. What are we going to do? Well, we can wait till daylight, but Joe may die. We can find who has lit the fire, but what if it's cannibals? Okay, so that's risky. We can head for the road and hope that somebody is going to come, but as you can see on the map, the road is hardly used. Or we can go to the village, but to get to the village, you have to cross the river filled with alligators, okay? And how long will it take? Well, we need to establish it's going to take a while, so Joe probably won't make it, okay? We only have food and water for one day, okay? Now, can you solve this task? Either together, if you were a group, you have an advantage. But even if you're alone, thinking of what you could do, right? What would be your ideas? Okay, could you come up with something creative? Which route to choose? How to assess the risk? Okay. Yeah, maybe it's a nightmare. That's a very good idea, Anna. I think, Ala, because it seems a good thing to think. Yeah, it might be. Sit and cry. Sit and cry is a good idea at first, but then you have to, try to think of something. Find who's lit the fire. Okay, so Olga is risking the cannibals. Not bad. Build a plane. That's a great idea, and it's not here, so it's very creative. From Natalia. My students very often come up with a cruel solution. So they say, we are going to head towards the small village, take Joe, because he's dying anyway. We are going to throw him into the river. The alligators will take care of Joe, and then we'll cross. The rest will be safe. We can feed the alligators with Joe, for example, because it's hard to make wings. There are lots of very good ideas, okay? Now, why is this task doable and the other one was not, okay? And yet at school, you are taught things like in the previous slide rather than this one, okay? Now, the difference is between those two types of tasks in the type of knowledge and skill that you need to use, okay? So in the first, this is something you need to know, a fact. It happened in the past, or it's in science, it's maths or geography or whatever. It's a fact. You need to know it. You don't know it, you can't do it, okay? You have to remember the facts, right? And in the second one, as Ala says, we should think, okay? This is creative. This is something that uses your skills, your experience, your communication skills, your collaboration skills with others, and this is how you deal with the task. And it's also more interesting for the students because there is a potential of success, okay? So if I work hard, I may actually be able to succeed to do the task. And if you don't know the date of the act of supremacy, that's it. You don't know it. That's it. So the difference mainly is in the type of intelligence that is used. So the first things, the act of supremacy or the capital of Oman, you can Google up, or you can use the artificial intelligence tools, and they are going to give you elaborate answers if you want to, right? So if you teach and ask students facts, this is something not 21st century anymore, okay? It's like 50 years ago, people had to learn a lot of facts because it was difficult to find them otherwise. You would have heads filled with facts. And nowadays, I can see with my students, I work at the University of Łódź, and I've got lots of students in my classroom that are different from the students that I taught 10 or 15 years ago, because they have different ways of acquiring knowledge. They are not learning facts because they find it useless, because a fact you can Google up in 5 seconds. Okay, and yet at school we are still lagging behind, and we are still teaching them facts, okay, rather than teaching them the 21st century skills that they need. Okay, so the difference between those two tasks that I showed you and that you did really well is in the type of intelligence. Okay, artificial intelligence is a collection of facts, it's a database of facts. Okay, this you can always refer to. This you have in your phone, in your computer, in your tablet. This you've got everywhere. So that's simple, that's easy. It's an easy access and something that you can find quickly. It's not worth teaching, really. Okay, what is the real intelligence. Something that the artificial intelligence cannot do, like you did, like you came up with ideas what to do after the crash that were not in the prompts, okay? That was using creative thinking, there was a critical analysis of the situation. These are the 21st century skills that we have to focus on, okay? Regardless whether we are teaching social sciences or we're teaching English, especially when we're teaching English, because languages are easy to incorporate such knowledge and to teach such skills, because a language is different than any other subject, right? Because when you teach history, you teach the content of history. If you teach geography, you teach the content of geography. But when you are teaching English, you are not teaching the content of the language. You are not teaching the descriptive grammar. that you were taught at the university. In the classroom, we are borrowing from other subjects, right? So we've got a reading text that borrows from history or or from geography, a listening text that borrows from psychology, for example. Lots of different areas come to our classroom, and this gives us a perfect opportunity to develop the 21st century skills in our students. So the thinking abilities and going beyond the language, at the same time doing everything in the language. So as a byproduct, students learn the language and they also develop the 21st century skills. Okay, so what are the 21st century skills? Well, there was a report published in 2020. It's quite a famous report in the field of economics and sociology, because this was the one that sort of defined which skills are 21st century. So which skills are going to be the most important ones in this century? And some of those skills, the skills that we can actually teach and develop in an English language classroom at the primary level, are the 4 that I chose for today. The first one being critical thinking. So the ability to understand what you are looking at, the ability to understand what you're reading, not on surface, but on the intention of the writing. Creativity, Ala, you're going ahead of me. Creative thinking is another one which is also in the report. Creative thinking is also the one that is going to have immense impact on the 21st century people. Active learning is one. Active learning is essential because, well, it sort of substituted the lifelong learning, right? Active learning means active searching for knowledge, because knowledge is everywhere and it's easy to access. We need to promote students' interest in finding information, in communicating with others, in actively seeking to respond to my need for knowledge, right? Because students tend to have some needs for knowledge. So you are inspiring them in the classroom, and then they sit thinking, that's interesting. Maybe I should learn something more about it. Okay. So they go into the internet and they look for it. Okay. Luckily for us, most of the content on the internet is in English. So they are developing English as well at the same time. Yes. And for all those who are impatiently already giving me the right answers, the last one is communication and collaboration. So these are the ones that are typically indicated as the most important 21st century skills, and the ones that we can most easily develop in an English classroom: critical thinking, creative thinking, active learning, communication and collaboration. And I don't mean for learning English, I mean generally developing in the students while teaching them English, right? Like an additional thing. So we'll be starting one by one. And so looking at critical thinking. So I'm going to show you some of the tasks and materials that work in my classrooms, some very simple ideas that you can use with your students to develop them in those 4 areas of the important 21st century skills in a classroom, whether it's a real life classroom or an online classroom, so that you can actually use, maybe you can use some of those and they will work for you as well. I sure hope so, because they are developing the students. Students become more open and more interested in the world in general, not only English. Okay, so starting with critical thinking. Now, critical thinking is an essential 21st century skill, and it's essential for many, many reasons. But one of the most important reasons, I think, critical thinking is essential is avoiding the risk of being manipulated. Critical thinking in terms of a language classroom can refer to analyzing texts, but analyzing texts not like reading comprehension like we are used to doing, but also understanding things beyond what is on the surface. Okay, so whenever you've got a text, this is like a tip from me. When you've got a text, now this is a fairy tale, a story about a little Red Riding Hood. Before you start reading, or after you've done the reading comprehension questions, the typical ones, we can push this activity further, and I do encourage you to do so, because research shows that people cannot understand what they read. I mean, they read something in their first language. They read something And they think they understand because they understand the words, they understand the grammar because it's their first language, but they don't actually understand how this thing that they read impacts them, how it influences them. And this is a space, a huge space for manipulation. They can be manipulated by that. So for example, they cannot understand what the intention of the author is. Yeah, so they read something they think is just informative, and in actual fact, it's not informative, it's propaganda. So for that reason, it's very important for me to start sort of raising the awareness of critical reading, critical listening from the earliest ages, from the youngest learners. So we have a very simple story. Imagine we have done the general questions that we always ask. Why are your eyes so big, grandma, and so on. And now we are pushing it a little bit further. So we are analyzing the text at a literary level. So we are looking at the text and we are asking what characters are presented in the story. Okay, so if you're looking at the pictures, what are the characters? Well, there is Little Red Riding Hood, her mother, there is grandma, there is the hunter, okay, and there is the wolf. These are the characters in the story. Fine. Where is the story set? Okay, and you've got like 3 settings of the story. Yeah, so I'm sure that you know you don't have to look at the photos, but even if for the children it's the first time they see the story about the Little Red Riding Hood, they can see that the first setting is where's the first setting? What is the first setting, I wonder, do you know? The one where she is with her mother. Where is she? At home. And exactly where? In a village. And exactly where? In what place? Exactly. And in which room of the house would you say? In the kitchen, Natalia. Well done. Yeah, it's in the kitchen, possibly. How do you know? Okay. Well, obviously, I know how do you know. But if you ask the students, how do you know? It may not be so obvious for them. Okay. And also for some students who have not guessed quickly that it's the kitchen, they can be led to it, right? They can be sort of given the clues, right? Look, when you want to decide where the story is set, you have to look at the background, what's in the background, okay? So like look at the second picture, the setting is a forest, how do you know? Okay, what time of the day can it be? How do you know? Okay, so we are teaching the students to look at the details, to observe the details, to understand that the text has a context, and the context is extra-linguistic. Okay, there is furniture, obviously. Okay, Alina says, which is the furniture is characteristic for the kitchen or characteristic for the bedroom in the further pictures. Okay, so this is what we do. There is a pie for Granny, which basically comes from the kitchen because this is where you bake pies. Okay, so this is how you show the students that there is the context. Okay. Now, what kind of text is it? Now, this is a very literary type of question. How do you know? Okay, is it a poem? Is it an advertisement? So is it a functional text? What is it supposed to do? Is it supposed to encourage you to do something? Is it supposed to explain something to you? Is it instruction? What is it? It's a fairy tale. How do you know? How do you know is the crucial question. Always ask the students, how do you know? Okay, so that you know that they know how they know, right? Okay, is it okay? But if you look, there is a moral in the story, that's true. If you look at how it's written, there are dialogues in there, okay? Because characters say something, right? And so you know that this is a story. It's a fairy tale because it seems to be imaginary, okay? And now this is the question I always ask my youngest students. If we are reading a story, is the story real or imaginary? Okay, now is the story real or imaginary is essential. Okay, I'll tell you a story from my life. I'm sure this is the same. You've got absolutely the same experience because we are culturally very close. So years ago, like many years ago, 20 years ago, I think, in the Polish television, we started to have programs like serials that were set in hospitals. And they looked like documentaries. We call them para-documentaries. Okay, so they look like a documentary, but they're actually imaginary. They are not true. They are not documentaries. Okay, they are. There's a scenario to it, and you can see it when you are well experienced, when you are suspicious. Okay. Now my mother, who is now 70, so she was in her 50s when they started. She had a huge problem understanding that this is not a documentary. And a lot of people, especially older people, had this problem of understanding whether this program is a document or it's actually it's a film. Okay, it's staged. There is a scenario to it. Okay, now how dangerous is it? It's extremely dangerous, because then you watch something and you think that this is the truth. Okay, you watch the news and they say something and say, right, they say it on TV, it must be true. Okay, and most of the times it's not. Okay, so you have to be aware of the fact that you can be lied to. Okay, so like looking at the story here and asking children, is the story real or imaginary? How do you know? How do you know that the story is imaginary? Well, the wolf speaks, wolves don't speak. Okay, the wolf stands on his hind legs. They don't do that. The wolf is dressed. Okay, this is what doesn't happen. Okay, now we are teaching children at this age very early. There is a chance that when they grow up and they will watch a film or something that is news, and they will look for clues if they are not lied to. Okay, if it really is true, and if they see something that is false, they will hesitate. Okay, they will not believe like 100% that this is the truth. Okay, this is essential. This is essential for life, and this is a huge 21st century skill. Students need to understand that they need to interact with the text critically, not take everything like as it is. Okay, in listening, in reading, in watching films, movies, news, whatever, they need to question everything. Okay, always look for clues to see whether it's not false. Okay, we need to start early. We can start here. Okay, now critical thinking, how can we develop that? There are a lot of different ideas. Now, these are the ones that I chose for you. Obviously, it's not like the whole panorama of those, but a few that I like and I find very effective in the classroom. So, for example, personalization, right? So we read something. In this case, we were reading some rules for safety. And then we are asking questions, which safety rules do you always follow? Okay, now if you are drivers, right, you can ask yourselves, which safety rules do I always follow? Do you always stick to the speed limit, for example? Or do you always obey the red light when you are crossing the street, for example, when you're a pedestrian? Okay, so yeah, you know, this is like a reflection question. Okay, you can think about whether you actually do follow the rules. Okay, but here we can also introduce the crucial rules for the students, right? If you're a child, there are certain rules that you have to follow. You must, for your own safety. Okay, and you need to understand that those rules are not just mean parents or mean teachers telling you to, but they are actually very important for you, for your own safety, and you should be aware of your own safety as a child even. Another one, very important one, that we have to teach children to discern between fact and opinion. Okay, because if we don't, again, if the students don't understand the difference between fact and opinion, they will be manipulated. Okay, the fact that a politician has an opinion is not a fact. Okay, it doesn't mean that I have to follow his opinion. I can form my own. Okay, facts are facts, like scientific facts. Water boils at 100 degrees is a fact. It's not an opinion. But whatever a politician says may or may not be his own opinion that I can follow or not. So this is like the first one is like for younger learners, and this one is for older learners. Here we are looking at statements, understanding whether a person is giving a statement is for or against. Okay, again, very important not to be manipulated, to understand whether a person said something, does it mean that this person is for or the person is against something? Okay, and this is also very important to develop the awareness in the children. We can do it in English, which is great. But also, this is a 21st century skill. The students need to develop it generally in their first language, in whatever language they are going to be using. And another place where you can practice critical thinking is values. Okay, so thinking about important things in life. So giving them an opportunity to stop and think what they actually think, what their actual opinion on that is, right? So questions that seem quite difficult cognitively, right? So like what can we learn from studying the past? Now, this is something maybe the child has never been asked before they came to your classroom. Okay, so they came to your classroom and the first time in their life they're going to think about something is in English. Okay, I've got lots of examples of situations in which it happens to me, right? So the first time in my life, I was wondering about something like zoos, okay? Whether zoo is a positive or a negative thing, whether animals should be kept in zoo or not. I had never thought about it before I came to an English lesson where it was the topic, okay? So we are sort of forming their opinions, okay? So we are helping them to understand what their opinions are. And this is developing their critical thinking. Things that go beyond the book, if you want to play with the children, Dixit, I'm sure you can get it in shops where you live. It's a game. It actually has its own rules, but I don't care. The most important thing about Dixit is that it's a collection of cards that have very ambiguous, abstract pictures on it. Okay, so lots of different pictures. You can find those on the internet. There are you can find them on different web pages, or if you like, you can use the artificial intelligence tools like DALL-E or Midjourney. It should be somewhere. It will appear somewhere there. Midjourney and DALL-E are artificial intelligence tools that create pictures. So what you do is you give them a description of what you want to have in the picture, and they will just produce it for you, okay? Which is great, especially if you're working online, because the picture is in an online format, so you can just show it to the students and just have fun. It's a great game to play, but you can use it for developing their critical thinking. My ideas, 3 with a common theme. So what I do is I take 3 random cards from Dixit, and I tell the students to come up with a common theme. So one thing that joins all these pictures, okay? And because they are so ambiguous and so abstract, you can always think of something, okay? Like imaginary journey or whatever. They can come up with one theme. This is critical thinking because they have to analyze the picture and think of what matches those cards. Okay. Find in your set and explain why. So this is a game in which I am showing them my card and I'm telling them, okay, in your sets, in word wall or in real cards, however you're working, find a card that shows the same idea that my card, but you also have to explain why. Okay. You need to not only to give me the idea that yes, this is my card and this is also imaginary journey, but you also have to explain why. And one more, when you've got older students, you can ask them to choose 3 of these cards and then write a paragraph based on them. Like they put them in order and write a story or whatever, a paragraph. It may be like a poetical paragraph, whichever, however the students are advanced and old. Okay, oh, Midjourney. Midjourney appeared. Okay, Midjourney and DALL-E, 2 tools that are making those. Also, I highly recommend a web page called Board Panda. If you don't know it, it's a very nice web page where you can find ambiguous pictures. They are artwork. They are done by artists. And they are very ambiguous and they are very deep and they're like lots of different concepts. They're conveying different concepts. So they're like starters for discussions when you've got older students, or you can just ask the students to critically analyze what they can see in the photo and what it can mean actually, okay? Because they never mean what they show, okay? You have to think what they mean. Highly recommend that one. Okay, creative thinking now. Creative thinking is something you did when you were doing the task with how to survive after the crash. In a context of a language class, it's always a good idea to ask what happens next. Okay, so you're doing a story. They are reading a story, and then we are asking what happens next, okay? Or we can ask the students to come up with an alternative ending, okay? It's like if it ends happily, let's change something. Or you can ask the students to look at the story from the perspective of a different character, right? So if we have the Little Red Riding Hood, the story is told from the perspective of the narrator, but it could be told from the perspective of the Little Red Riding Hood, okay? And then it would go like, Mom gave me a basket. I have to go to grandma, okay? And then it's told from the perspective of the girl. But it can also be told from the perspective of the wolf, which makes it more interesting, okay? So always think of telling bad story rather than a good story, right? Good stories are nice, but they are not so interesting, okay? So if you ask the students to describe your best journey, okay, you can do that if they travel a lot. Or you can tell them, describe your nightmare journey, okay? Describe your most beautiful dream, okay? But describe your worst nightmare, better. Describe your best teacher, fine, but describe the worst teacher you can imagine, better, without giving names though, okay? So develop their creative ideas. Here is an activity in which they are going to produce their own radio advertisement. And because we are in the 21st century, they can actually record the audio advertisement, and they can send the audio advertisement to you, and you can assess it. What is the advantage? The advantage of you giving students an assignment in which they have to record themselves is that they are going to repeat the task, because they are not going to send you the first thing they record because they want to give a good impression. So first they're going to record something, it's not going to be so good, they're going to record it again and again and again and again until they like it, and you are going to get the final version, okay? So for some students it may be like the fourth or the fifth version, which means that they have repeated the grammar structures and the vocabulary like 5 times before they actually send it. Yeah, so that's why I like the recordings. Older students, a very nice task that I really like, imagining the future. Okay, so we are giving them areas that they have to look at and think of what will change in the future regarding shopping or regarding transport. Okay, or you can ask them, what can we improve in the city, or what can we improve in the world globally in the areas of shopping, transport, like today. Okay, or you can talk about the past. So what was shopping and transport and food like 100 years ago? Okay, to practice used to, for example. Okay, what has changed? Lots of ideas so that they have to come up with their own predictions or show their knowledge of something. Okay, another idea for creative thinking that you're looking, this is the actual task, but I'm using it a little bit differently. So the task in the course book is look at the photos, and you have to decide where the man is and what he's doing. Okay, and then there is an interview, and you find out. Okay, so there is a guy, he's somewhere, he's doing something, we don't know what, we need to guess. Okay, and so the students are looking at the photos and they're guessing. What do you think? Where's the man in the first photo? What is the place? Where was the photo taken, do you think? He's an explorer. Yeah, he could be. Natalia, in the chat, you are identified with different alphabets. So sometimes it takes me time to decide, but I get that. I get your answers, okay? Yeah, it's a forest, might be a jungle. Lovely. What is he doing there? He's an explorer. That was one guess. What else can we do? Why is he there? Why is he in the forest? Why is he in this jungle? He got lost. Yes, he is a tourist. He's hiking. Lovely. I love that. Okay, perfect. Now, because you are highly advanced students, obviously, and cognitively advanced, you're doing escaping his wife, I imagine. He's a hunter. He could be. Lots of good ideas. Now, the students might struggle a little bit. So my favorite type of task, looking at the picture, or like whatever picture, because I'm showing you a task, but he's cutting down trees. I like that, Oksana. It can be any picture you show the students. You give them the picture, you ask them the question, where is the man, or what is he doing there? And then you ask them 3 times why. Okay, so you say like, okay, so there is a man, he is in the forest. Why? He got lost. Why? Why did he get lost? What happened? And they have to come up with something. Well, maybe he was traveling, maybe he was a tourist, he was traveling and there was a plane crash. Why? Why was there a plane crash? Okay. Now, the task is called, the activity is called 3 times why, and it's not mine. I took it from my husband's book. My husband is a manager and he's got a lot of management type books. And one of the techniques for managing crisis is the technique of 3 times why. So when something goes wrong in a company and there's like a crash on some IT tools, for example, then to solve this problem in the company, to solve this crisis, to find out what the source of the crisis is, you have to ask the 3 times why questions. But I find it incredibly interesting in my English lessons, and my students typically go far beyond 3 times why, okay? They will keep asking why and why and why and why, and the story will develop, okay? Which really is very nice. And they like that. But because this works well if you've got students who are not so good at speaking and they are not very talkative, okay? So you tell them that they need to tell you what the man is doing there, but they cannot just say a sentence like, I don't know, it's like, where's the man and what he's doing there? So they would go like, so this man is in the forest and he is exploring different species of animals because, or but, whatever you like, but you have to do those 3. Because he is a biological scientist, but he hasn't found any new species yet. So he is still, as a gathering mushrooms could be as well, obviously. Okay. So yeah, so you're giving those 3 options and they have to build a sentence that is longer. Okay. So this is my idea for making those who are not very talkative and they produce very short sentences, to make those sentences longer and longer. Secret agent, I like. He could be, why not? Okay. Chain story or chain conditional. So you show them the prompt and say, okay, this is our setting. This is the story. Okay, I'm starting. I take a ball or whatever. In the digital era, you just can, you can have a sorting machine to choose another student to answer. And so if I have a normal classroom, I take a ball and I throw the ball to someone and I say, okay, one day, a very famous explorer was stranded in the middle of the jungle because his plane crashed. And I throw the ball and the students have to continue, and we are building a story together, okay? Focusing on the story, on the content on the story, not on the language. And so the language comes like a byproduct, which is nice because they are not focusing on being extra accurate, but they are developing their thinking skills, the creative thinking. Or chain conditionals, I don't know if you know this one. Chain conditionals are when you're practicing the second conditional and you are asking students to build a chain from the second part of the conditional. For example, I say, if I had a lot of money, I would travel to the jungle. And then the person that I choose has to start, if I traveled to the jungle, I would get lost, for example. And then the next person starts from the second part. If I got lost, I would have problems. If I had problems, I would call help. If I called help, someone would come, and sort of, and so on. Okay, because the students are developing the chain conditional story, practicing the second conditional, also the second forms of the verb. Or a diary or a vlog. Okay, so you can tell the students, all right, so now you're going home and you need to imagine you are the explorer. Would you like to be the explorer? Obviously, everybody would like to be an explorer. So you need to imagine that this is you. You are in the middle of the jungle exploring or having had a plane crash or whatever. And what I need you to do is to write a diary entry or a vlog entry every day. So every day you wake up in the morning, you take the phone and you record yourself saying, today is a bad day. It's been raining all night. Okay, the snakes are coming close. I'm scared. Okay, and that's it. And then the next day you are recording something else. And after a week, you can, as a class together, watch the vlogs or read the diary to see what's happening. Like it's like a story in episodes. Okay, my students like it, especially that they have to record themselves, so they do it many times before they show to the class. Funny idea for a project you can try. Active learning. Moving to active learning, we are looking at the ability or the willingness to do something something on your own, right? Something that the teacher doesn't make you do, but something that you want to do yourself. Okay, so we are trying to inspire them to look for knowledge somewhere else, not only in the classroom. Okay, so the obvious one, the one that comes to my mind as the first one in active learning, is discovery technique. So instead of giving the students the rules first, give them the text first. Okay, trust them to understand what they are reading. Okay, so here we are looking at teaching grammar this way. So we are giving them a text. They are focusing on the content, on the meaning of the story. Okay, and the structures, the new structures are highlighted, but we are not giving them the rule yet. We are asking them to understand the text, to try to figure out what it means. And then we are asking them, so this is what it means. Have a look how it's formed. Okay, look for 2 different examples and see the analogy. Okay, come up with the solution yourself. Okay, now this is about grammar, but it's even more important when you're teaching vocabulary. So whenever there is a reading text, I highly encourage you not to tell the students the difficult vocabulary before they read. Okay, or don't tell the students, read the text and underline the words you don't know. I know that this is something that is like standard and everybody does that. Don't. Try not to, okay? Tell the students, read the text, and when you find a word that you don't know, try to guess what it means, okay? Like highlight or underline the word, the nice word, the interesting word that you think you know what it means because it's made obvious by the context. Why is that important? It's important for 2 reasons. First of all, you never know a language so well that you know all the words. So even if you are C2 plus level and you go to the London Gallery of Art and somebody is describing a picture for you and you are not an artist, you will lack the vocabulary, the specific vocabulary of art, obviously. And so you will not understand a word or 2, which doesn't mean that you give up, okay? You need to know and understand that from the context, you will guess what it means, okay? Now, the interesting thing is that when the children are little, you don't have to explain it to them. Why? Because they don't know a lot of words in their first language. And if you read a story, like think about of the stories, I'm sure you've got the context as we do in Poland. Some of the stories are quite old-fashioned and they have old-fashioned vocabulary in them. And when I read it to my son, who is 6 at the time, I read him a story, and very often in a story in Polish, in his first language, there is vocabulary that he doesn't understand, but he doesn't ask every sentence, Mom, what does it mean? Because it's obvious, it's from the context, right? And students do the same exact thing with English, okay? So they know not many words in English, so they actually have to guess a lot, okay? And when they are young, they are used to guessing because they do it in their first language too. When they grow older, they lose it, but they don't lose it naturally. We destroy it for them, the teachers do. The teacher tells them, you must understand every word in the story, because if you don't, you will not understand the story. And what happens is I teach a man, there was a course, there was a European funded course for people 50 plus, okay? And there was this adorable older man in my classroom who would read the text until he met a word he didn't understand. And you could do whatever you could, like, don't worry about it, Jan, go on, it's not important, this word is not important, you can go on reading. He would say, like, I'm not going to read because I don't understand this word. You give me the translation, I can go on, okay? And so if you develop this attitude in a student, imagine what happens. They will go abroad, somebody will say a sentence which is over their level, most probably, and they will say, I don't understand anything because I don't understand this one word. I'm not gonna even try understand what you want, okay? And this is not the right attitude when you want to survive in a foreign country, right? So yeah, so this is what we're doing. We can show them that grammar, in this case, is like blocks, okay? I've got blocks like Lego blocks, okay? We've got Lego blocks. You can put words on the Lego blocks. I'll try to show it to you. I've got books here, okay? And you can tell the students, okay, grammar is like building from Lego blocks, okay? So you've got like, you need the ground. And on the ground, you've got the little blocks, and those blocks make sentences, okay? And you can move the blocks, okay? Then it's tangible. This is something they can touch. This is less abstract when you do that. And this is how you can show them graphically, but you can also show them with real Lego blocks if you want to do that. Or you can write those words like in a structure, grammar structure. Yeah, I've got words like that. And what you can do if you are teaching in an actual real classroom, you can give those words out to the students and ask the students to make a sentence by standing with those cards, okay? And then when you are making a question by inversion, for example, you just take two students and they change places, okay? And so the students understand that language can be played with, right? That there are elements in the language that you can move around, and they actually could do that. Interacting with the material is something that is important when you think about active learning. We should be encouraging students to interact with the material, not only react to it, okay? So if there is a reading text, they read it, they do the reading tasks, but they have to do something with it, okay? So if we were reading about weekend clubs and different extracurricular activities, that's good, that's fine, they should be reading about that, but let them also interact with the material and say, okay, and now create your own weekend club, okay? So come up with your own rules. Right, so because here this is the lesson about the rules that we had, okay? So what are the rules in your weekend club? Okay, so be creative, interact with the material. This one is for younger learners, so we are giving them more hints, okay? So I want you to design your own playground. These are the things you can choose some, then together decide what animal is where. Okay, so it's a little bit like a twist, funny twist. And then you draw your playground, and then you describe your playground. So it's done in steps. It's sort of like crushed into different steps so that it's not too difficult for the child, but it's fun. It's fun because you are actually doing something you want to and not something that is already given to you. Okay, now this is a clue of active learning, that you have to do something on your own rather than being given something straight on, okay? Learning on your own also means that you are given, that you give the students some tips on their own learning. So you tell the students, okay, listen, it's a good idea to learn English adjectives in contrast. Okay, so it's like black, white, long, short, good, bad. Okay, come up with some others. Okay, you can play like that at home. You can, anytime you learn a new adjective, find a pair for it, a contrasting pair for it, or trying to show them the patterns. Okay, so that they can see the patterns. This is another thing that is extremely important, because when you know the patterns, even if you don't know the word, you can guess whether the word is an adjective, whether the word is a noun. Sometimes for tests, for example, international tests or national tests, it's important only to know if this word is a noun or a verb, and you don't even really need to know what it actually means, right? So looking for patterns is something that we should encourage our students to do, right? Because this is something that they will use and they will need in the future. And it will also help them learn other languages, not only English. Maybe in the future they will learn Spanish, or they will need for their work German, or they will emigrate to some other country and they will have to learn some other language. Looking for patterns is universal for all languages. Learning on your own if they are playing at home and you don't want to constantly make the word wall activities or whatever you're using, you can just refer them to play, to find different activities on their own and play. So British Council has got this webpage. One is for kids, one is for teens. You can tell the students to go and find there some games. They are all language based, so they are learning English of some sort, but they are generally playing a game. Okay, so this is like ReadWorks is one that is for maybe a little bit older students, because it's based on reading. So there are games and there are activities, but they are based on actual reading, and those readings are real life readings. So they are authentic, so-called, right? So they are not made specially easy for the students like in the course books, but they're the actual readings. It's I find it very motivational for the students who who are already at some level, but they don't see the point of learning more. So that's just showing them the actual thing is, okay, this is authentic text, right? You read the authentic text, look how many words you know already. Look how many sentences you can actually understand now, okay? Some you can guess, some you can understand. Congratulations, you have read a real text, okay? They are not long and they are not very difficult. They are specially selected, but nevertheless, they are authentic. Highly recommend that. Okay, and the communication, the collaboration is the last thing to talk about. Obviously, we know that they are very important. Communication is something more than speaking, okay? I'm speaking to you, I'm trying to communicate a little bit, but it's very difficult because you're online and you don't have a voice, you only have the writing. So this is lame communication. Communication normally requires two people to exchange some information in the same code. So one person has a message, the other person gives feedback, okay? And they are in the same code. So they are using the same language. They need to understand this language, okay? They also have a channel. Perfect channel would be face-to-face. Then we have also body language and other elements, and then we can communicate better. But any channel is a channel, right? So online channel, a phone, over the phone, that's a channel, okay? But the channel is necessary. Otherwise, we will not communicate. But there are two very important things that we often miss when we think about communication, and they are essential. The first one is a communicative goal. There will be no communication if there is no reason to communicate, okay? So sometimes we tell the students, okay, you read the dialogue together, and we think this is communication. It's not. They are not communicating because there is no real point in communicating. There needs to be a point. There needs to be something that I want to achieve, right? So when I'm telling my husband, for example, the rubbish bin is full, this is not to tell that I am very observant and we've got a full rubbish bin. I am telling him, take the damn rubbish out, okay? Obviously, we are using the same code. I'm giving the message in Polish. He understands Polish perfectly well. We are in a face-to-face channel, which is perfect, okay? And yet I do not communicate. There is no communication there, okay? Because I have a goal to communicate, my goal being the rubbish out of the house, but the last important thing that is missing is communicative desire, okay? You need to want to communicate, right? You need to want to understand what the other person is saying, right? It's not that my husband doesn't understand what I mean. It is just that he doesn't have that communicative desire, right? He doesn't have a desire to understand what I mean by that. He's like, okay, yes, it's full. You're right. You're very observant, okay? Now go take it out. So yeah, and these two things we need to take care of in the classroom to talk about actual communication. Otherwise, it's just speaking, okay? So communication that is guided is for the younger learners essential because at the beginning of their development of the second language, it's not so easy. It's like if you tell them, okay, so get in person, talk. They don't know how, right? So you need to give them a model. There is a model. They follow the model, okay? They understand what they're going to talk about. And then there is a task that they do on their own, okay? So now get in person and now look at the pictures and follow the model, okay, first. And then when you're ready, then you can actually do something very free, okay? Talk about your weekend, okay? And then you can talk whatever you want, but now you know how. Okay, and communication happens when there is an information gap. I'm sure you know what it means. Information gap is when I know something you don't know and you want to know it. So you are asking me. So there is this purpose. And I want to tell you. So there is a desire. Okay. So all communication games function on the assumption of the information gap. They can be based on a picture, like the first one. Okay. So the girl knows something. The boy knows something. The girl is trying to guess. Okay. And the boy is answering. If they both know it, and they are describing the picture to each other, looking at the picture, then there is no communication because they both know the same thing, right? Which also means that when you are asking a question to the students, there is no communication because you already know the answer. So yeah, but you want to see whether they know the answer. So maybe here is the information gap. So all games like that, guessing games, games based on pictures, interviews about something that you actually don't know. So I strongly recommend when you are doing interviews like do you like flying a kite in the last activity, try to change the partners so that the students don't talk to their typical partner all the time. Because if you are talking to your best friend all the time, very soon you will know everything about this person and there will be no information gap, okay? So sometimes you should change the partner to actually not know something, okay? And ask an actual question, right? About something you don't know. Okay, for older students, you've got also a collaboration that requires communication because we are doing it in English all the time. I'm running out of time, so I'm speeding up. I'm terribly sorry, but it will be recorded so you can see it later on. So here we've got a poster making together. Okay, so we are creating something together, communicating in English, but doing work that is not linguistic per se. Okay. Here is a very nice activity that I really like, where you are preparing for a discussion, a debate. So you are telling, okay, this is the situation. You have won £20,000 and now you are going to spend the money on school. Okay, so you need to come up with different ideas and we are going to talk about the needs of our school and how we are going to do that. And there is a debate. So they have to collaborate and they have to communicate and they have to come up with arguments. Very complex, takes the whole lesson, but it really is worth it. Okay, and here we've got communication and collaboration activity in which we have a motion and we are going to have a debate. Debate, my recommendation is when you want a debate and you want the students to come up with arguments for and against, do not ask them, are you for or against, I don't know, what was the debate about, sport at school every week. Just arbitrarily stand in front of the classroom and say, to the right, the half of the classroom is for, and to the left, the other half of the classroom is against. And I don't care whether you agree with your role or not, you have to come with those arguments, for or against. Because if you allow them to choose, you may, end up with 90% of the students being for and 10% being against, and it will be difficult to conduct the debate, okay? So you just tell them, you are for, you are against, I don't care whether you agree. Okay, and the last thing I'm going to share with you is my ideas on how to keep the students speak English, okay? Because I'm sure that you experience the same thing as in any foreign language classrooms where the students share the same language, right? That they will slip to their first language. First idea is the L1 speaking table. In my classroom, when I'm teaching in real life, I am putting a small table at the far corner of the classroom. It must be small. It should have no chairs, okay? It can't be comfortable. You put it there and you say, there. This is an English, this is a first language speaking table. This is a Ukrainian speaking table. If you really have to say something that is not English, you have to walk there, okay? Students by nature are quite lazy. So at the beginning, they will go there, speak and come back. But they will soon find out it takes time and effort to get up, to walk, to come back, okay? And so they will try harder to speak English. English critters, tiny little creatures that you can make on your own, or you can buy some whatever real ones in the Egg Surprise, for example. I tell my youngest students, look, these are English critters. They are tiny little creatures. They love you, but they are afraid of you speaking anything else than English. So you put them on the tables, and when the students are speaking English, they stay on the tables. But when the students switch to Ukrainian, you just take them away and say, oh, they got scared. They got scared of you speaking some other language than English. English only speaking guest. So you bring a figure that the students understand as an English speaking figure. Okay, I've got Paddington Bear, but it can be, I don't know, Spider-Man or whatever. And you tell them, okay, you cannot speak your first language because Paddington doesn't understand you, or Spider-Man doesn't understand you, and he's here, so it's not nice of you to exclude him, right? English-speaking master badge, if the student is particularly good at sticking to English all lesson, give him a reward, okay? English-speaking badge. Today, you spoke English only on my English lesson, and that was remarkable, okay? So you are going to get a badge. And the last one is the switch of identity. I tell my students, this is an English-only speaking classroom. You enter this door, you enter this classroom, and this is an English-only speaking world. Okay, we're in London, as if in London they spoke English. Now, there is some little English village. People can speak English only there, okay? And so we are speaking here only. only English, okay? So this is a switch of identity and it works for the students regardless of the age, okay? So just to sum up, the 21st century classroom skills, we are looking at critical thinking. We're trying to develop their critical thinking in our English classroom, creative thinking, which is very important for them, active learning, which helps them develop their language outside the classrooms to maximize on the time, and communication and collaboration, which is essential for their future in learning and also in the workplaces. So this is what we can develop in our tiny little English speaking classrooms that is more than language, that is not only grammar and vocabulary, but real life important skills. Thank you very much. Slava Ukraini.
Героям слава. Thank you very much, Anya.